Welcome to Top Tier Wrestling, your ultimate destination for all things AEW and WWE. Whether you're a hardcore wrestling fanatic or just a casual viewer, we've got you covered with the latest news, in depth show reviews, and our unfiltered opinions on everything happening in the world of professional wrestling. Join us as we dive into the high octane action, dramatic storylines, and backstage buzz of AEW and WWE. Get ready to step into the ring with us and stay on top of the wrestling world. This is Top Tier Wrestling. Welcome to the Top Tier Wrestling Podcast. It's the podcast that just loves wrestling. I'm Dawn, and with me is my tag team partner in crime, the one and only Josh. Together, we're the dynamic duo of Drop Kicks. We're here to body slam your boredom and suplex you into suplex you into wrestling greatness. That's it. Ha ha! All right, let's get into it.
Let's powerbomb the podcast.
Take it.
All right, and on today's episode, we'll be discussing WWE SmackDown from November 8th. And this one starts out knowing what we wanted to see. We start with
came to see.
You know it's got to be the tribal chief because we start
Usos and the OTC.
We start out with Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso making their way to the ring. And the crowd immediately loses it. I never thought I would see the day that, like, so organically Roman Reigns is so over. Like, he could just barely hint at, like, hey, you guys, yes, eggnog, woo! You know, they would, like, immediately they would acknowledge him.
Yeah.
Instantaneously.
Yeah.
Exactly. So Roman and Jimmy come out, and they look like they're about to say something, and then, so
it's just me, Oos. Day one, it's just me, Oos. And the two of you in the ring, just me, Oos.
Yeah.
And the whole audience is just me. Okay.
Just him and the entire arena. Like, I
think
that plays, and people can not be watching the show, but for some reason they're like, yeet? What? You know? So, you end up with Roman, Jimmy, and Jay all in the ring, and not long after that, Sami Zayn's music cues up, and he ends up coming to the ring. And so once all of them are assembled, all of the combustible elements, you have Jey Uso start with saying that he thinks there's a lot of misunderstanding going around now, here now, Oos. And he just wants you to hear him out. He just wants you to hear what he has to say, and he's addressing Roman. And then Sammy chimes in, and he says, look, I just want to address what happened at Crown Jewel. I want you to know that kick to the face, it was not on purpose, okay? But he wants you to know something else. The only reason he had showed up at Crown Jewel was for Jay. And he says he'd love to say the only reason that he's here tonight was because Jay asked him to come out here, but that's not true. It's been a long time since all four of them have been in the ring together, and specifically him and Roman. And he thought about all the things he'd want to say to Roman, thought of all the things he would do if he was ever in the ring with him again. But then he goes on to say, the truth is at Crown Jewel, when it was all four of us for just a minute, it was special. It took him back to a special time in his career, special time in his life, special time with family. And he goes on to say, I'm not going to lie, even though there's been a lot here, talking about all the misunderstandings and bad blood. He says there's still a part of him that's got a soft spot for the time all four of them were in the bloodline. And he says they all felt it too. He feels sure even Roman on some level felt it. And he goes on to say the reason he knows that is because Roman's standing in the ring right now. And then he goes on to say something about like Roman. People think the opposite of love is hate, but it's not. It's indifference, and I don't think you're indifferent to me. He says, "I think you love me, and you're smirking at me. I see it. It's still there." And he says, "You remember the old days just like everybody else, and it could be like that. It could be all of us partying in the SUV, me and Jimmy doing the handshake, Jay in the back seat, hater of the year, and you're sitting up front doing your thing, being all jacked and cool, and we can run it all back. And I tell you why." Um, he says, "You know what I'm going to do, Roman? I'm going to put the ball in your court, man. If you want me to turn around right now and leave and never be a part of the bloodline business again, I'll do it. But I don't think that's what you want. I think you want the Usos and Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns fighting together side by side. And if that's what you want, I'll do it. I just need you to do one thing for me. Apologize." And then Roman says, "Let me get this straight. You want me to apologize to you?" And Sami says, "No, the apology is not for me. I want you to apologize to Jay." And Roman walks over to Jay and says, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I ever let you waste my time with this. He's not in our family. He's not blood. He's not honorary. He ain't no oos. Quit wasting my time. It's not about him. It's about Solo." And then he says, "Solo, bring your ass out to the ring right now and let's handle business." And at this point, Sammy walks away, and Jacob Fatu appears on the Titantron. And Jacob says, "Hey, yo, Roman Reigns, do I have your attention now?" "Roman, it's been so long since you've been the tribal chief, so here, let me lace you up real quick with this, stupid. You see, there's the tribal chief, and then there's everybody else. And you see, Solo is our tribal chief, and that makes you just like everybody else. Back of the line with it." And he says, "Solo doesn't jump when you tell him to jump, and he's sure not moving when you say move. Hell, Solo moves on his own time, and Solo will come out there when he damn well pleases. So at the end of the day, you'll acknowledge that."
They need to let Jacob talk some more smack.
Yeah, it was pretty
he's
good.
Pretty good at it. Every time he talks some smack, it's good.
Yeah, well, I also think it's good to let people know that Jacob Fatu's capable of saying something other than "I love you, Solo."
Yeah,
Um,
I'd
So-
appreciate that if they could.
it's pretty good. I think I've seen Jacob cut like 2 promos now, and he's been good at both of them. Jacob is really showing himself to be a fairly complete professional wrestler. Like, he's
I
banging
agree.
in the ring, he's good at conveying his character, and he can cut the promos. Jacob is fantastic.
Yeah.
And that pretty much brings the Bloodline segment, at least at the beginning of the show, kind of to an end there. And then we get a quick update that the 2025 Elimination Chamber is going to take place in the Rogers Center in Toronto, Ontario, Canada on Saturday, March 1st.
He just sounded so excited. He just sounded so excited about that.
Well, I mean, it's so far away. Like that's
Yeah.
that's in 2025. But after that, we cut to Jey Uso running into Roman Reigns in the backstage area, and Roman doesn't want to hear Sami Zayn out. And Roman says, "Why does Jey care so much about that fool? If Jey loves Sami so much, go find him and get out of Roman's." He says, "Get out of my face." And Jey reminds Roman that he wasn't going to be talked down to like that anymore. And he says to Roman, "That's your one pass, Oos." And then Jimmy tries to say, "Roman, man, what are you doing?" And Roman's like, "Look, you can go find him too." And so Roman basically runs off everybody. So after it looked like everybody was coming back together, Roman's like, "No, I'm gonna be Ego Man.
No,
And
I got
screw all you
man stuff
people."
to do.
Yeah. So we're back, if seemingly back to square one, where Roman is all by himself, and
Yeah.
all through his own inability to like be like, "Hey man, I'm sorry I was a dick." Instead,
Yeah.
he's like, "Here, I'm gonna double down and give you extra dick." So
Whoa.
yeah,
Whoa.
I'm just saying, yeah, that sounded wrong.
What did he
Uh,
say?
what did he say? But yeah, he just doubles down on being a ginormous a hole. So
Yeah.
we end up with Roman sitting pretty much alone for that. That's pretty much Roman's promo throughout the rest of
Just him
thing.
sitting
Is
alone,
they'll just cut the
staring.
scenes of him sitting there contemplating like life by himself. Um, but after that, that segment cuts away to our first match, which is Bailey versus Candice LeRae. And if you have something you want to say here, by all means, feel free to speak to this first match.
To be perfectly honest, I don't have much to say except for it was a mediocre match. Um, Candice LeRae was mediocre at best, and Bailey has been looking a bit off as of late. Like maybe she needs like some time or something. I don't know. But she's not meshing really well with the women that they've been putting in the ring with her. So, overall, this was a lackluster match. I mean, if I had to give it a rating based on like 1 star being shit and 5 stars being amazing, I would give this match maybe two, maybe two and a half. Nothing stood out. Nothing exciting happened.
Yeah.
Um, nothing really. Yeah, absolutely nothing. This was a basic match where they did their basic move sets, both ladies. Um, and just the cursory search in my brain. No, nothing really stood out in this match. It was a basic one. Two and a half stars at best. Yeah.
All right, that's fair. Um, Here's my thoughts on this situation. One, I absolutely agree with you that the last couple of matches Bailey's had with either Candice LeRae and before that Nia Jax, like I don't know if the chemistry is off or something, but like her matches with Jax didn't look good, and the matches with LeRae just aren't that good. I'm not that up on Candice LeRae as a performer. She doesn't impress me in the slightest, and so I'm not sure why we're expected to really care here, right? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like Bailey's in the angle with anybody over anything really, and Candice LeRae just sort of showed up like a couple weeks ago out of the blue,
Yeah.
and I have yet to have a reason to care, and it sure doesn't help. Like you brought Candice and Indy Hartwell back, and then let Indy Hartwell go like in the middle of it. So now it's just Candice LeRae kind of sticking her nose into the business, and it's like, to be perfectly honest, Candice LeRae is, as you stated, mediocre in the ring,
Yeah. They
and
and then
she's
they
trying to
put
get
their
in there with the best of like the
yeah.
women on the SmackDown roster, and it's just I'm like, why? Like this isn't doing anything for me. This whole match, like you said, was pretty bad. Like it wasn't a great match by any means, and if there was only like there was maybe one thing that kind of was a thing, and that's that LeRae tried to play possum like she's hurt in a corner, and we've seen her do that before, and clearly we're expected to have seen that be the case because the big thing is that Bailey's seen her do it before, so she doesn't fall for it when LeRae tries to go for like a pin, and that's how Bailey wins.
Hmm.
But here's the thing, I see it, I see what you're doing there, and I don't care. That's the problem. Like
Yeah.
again, Bailey's not got, she's not in a hot angle with anybody, and what she's doing here with LeRae just feels like filler. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I have more tolerance for filler when this isn't a weekly show of which there are like 4 matches. So using
Yeah.
one of those precious slots for a crap match like this, I'm just not here for it. You might as well skip this entirely in favor of anything better.
Yeah,
Um,
the problem with the matches that the women tend to have, that are just kind of like, just like just like a match, just like a basic, hey, we gotta put a female match in this time slot. One of those matches. Um, it never turns out good with the ladies. First of all, and I kind of feel like it would be better served to find uh women that have a little more heat, Can't look. We don't have a lot of time, and I would have rather had seen Naomi, uh, uh,
Yeah.
Tiffany,
Naomi and
anybody.
Tiffany would have been much better. Yeah.
I would have let Bailey. I feel like this is a waste of Bailey's time. And I mean no disrespect to Candice LeRae, but we have very little time left on the shows now. And you mean to tell me that backstage that's what you got? Okay, fine. Okay, fine. If Candice
Yeah.
LeRae is what's popping, then Candice LeRae needs to pop in the ring. It's like these ladies. So the problem with their little throwaway matches is they feel like throwaway matches. They
Yeah,
feel like
exactly.
there's nothing. It's like they're just going through like a dance choreography or a dance routine or
No,
something
I
like that.
I agree. I felt like I was watching Bailey and LeRae practice in the ring, and I'm like,
Yes,
what is
yeah,
this? What is this crap?
yeah. I felt like I watched a no heat, no passion, wrestle by numbers match, by two ladies that I mean, and Candace is not one of my favorites, but Candace can go. I've seen her do it. Uh, I know Bailey can go,
I am
but
unconvinced of this regarding
it's like
LeRae.
I know, I hear you. She's not gonna be your style, and she's not my style either. Um, but she can go. She has given more entertaining matches or more entertaining performances than what she gave there it was just for SmackDown. It was just come on. Um, so you knowing this, look, if you ain't hungry, then don't sit at the table. Like if you're not ready to eat, if you're not ready to work, then stay backstage because there are two
Yeah.
hours. And I know that there are some hungry women backstage who want the opportunity. So why you, Candace? Why you?
Yeah,
Because you're not impressing me, not at all.
well, and there's some people that I just don't think have the it factor, the charisma to be an entertainer. And LeRae doesn't convey much personality. Her moves look like very lackluster. I'm just not here with it. Like, and I don't know why Triple H is so up on the Gargano family. Like, I don't, maybe him and Stephanie double dated with like Johnny and Candace or something. Like,
Yeah,
I
I
also
don't
don't
know, man.
understand Triple H's like infatuation with vanilla midgets. Um, Speaking of
Yeah,
which, that comes up here in just a minute. But yeah, I don't think anyone who is in any way, shape, or form got the last name Gargano is doing any favors for anyone in that ring.
yeah,
There's zero entertainment factor.
yeah.
They are them on screen is when you want to change the channel.
Yeah. Yeah, so bottom line, Bailey did look off, but she's been looking off the past few matches that we've seen her in. Okay, and I don't know if it's because of the competitor that she has or the opponent that they have her paired up with. I don't know, but whatever the case, she's been looking off. Uh,
Yeah.
and secondly, Candice LeRae is just not entertaining. For me, she's not entertaining. So I already don't like your moveset, so I'm already going to have that in my head whenever you come on screen. But then to give me a boring rendition of your moveset, to give me a lackluster version of it when I already don't like it, I'm good. I'm good. Like if you don't want to be there, then don't be there. If you don't want to be in that ring,
Yeah.
don't be in the ring. Listen, I understand. Everybody's got some difficult shit going on in their lives. You know, it's not just your job. I totally get it. However, we have lost an hour. Uh, for both shows now, we both have both shows are 2 hours now, basically. So an hour is gone. We need the best of the best on screen.
Yeah.
You get up there and give 30%, and then you lose 30% of your viewership.
Well, you reminded me of something in mentioning that. I mean, you're spot on right. We've lost an hour's worth of WWE programming for now. But the rumor mill that I'm hearing online has changed. Um, I'm hearing now rumors that when SmackDown and Raw end up on Netflix, the intention might be to make both shows 3 hours long.
I had heard this.
And I know there's a lot of people out there that are like, "Oh my god, 3 hours is so long." I'm like, it isn't though.
No.
Not when you have a roster this deep and there's different stories you're trying to tell other than just what's in the top spot.
Yeah.
Um, that extra TV time, I mean, the loss of an hour, it's not lost on me that they lose an hour of TV time, and we just recently had three kind of contentious cuts. I mean, well, the contentious one being Baron Corbin, but I can only see that being the future for the WWE if their TV time becomes so limited. Because you can't do anything with a roster that deep with regards to putting them on television on a regular basis or telling stories that the viewing public are going to have an interest in.
Yeah.
So, if anything, WWE probably could use more TV time, maybe even another whole damn show.
Yep.
It just depends on what their intention is. Like, how much, I'm sure it's a balancing act, like how much TV time and how much of a roster. And, if you want everything that gets put on television to be, aces, this is stuff people really want to see, the most compelling stuff you can think of. There's I'm sure a tricky balancing act in all of that. So, but with that rumor out there, I don't think it would be a terrible thing for another hour of television for each of those shows.
Yeah.
Especially since WWE, more so than just about any other wrestling program we watch, like it just doesn't seem as prevalent on anything on AEW. They have so much non-wrestling content that gets shoveled in there. Talking about like their favorite charity, talking about other sporting events, talking about like commercial breaks.
Yeah.
We end up interrupting wrestlers' intros because the announcers want to cut away to talk about something else, or
Yeah. Well, the superstars
so
went over the weekend, or what
yeah,
hospital? Big E was talking to people at, or
yeah, exactly. So there's so much that isn't actually the wrestling show that competes for time as well.
yeah,
That television time, that 5 minutes on SmackDown that you are given, you have to make every bit of it count, and it's highly competitive for who gets to
yeah,
be there.
yeah.
So a little more
Excuse
TV
me.
time for WWE would just be a good thing, I think, when you
I
see how
Yeah,
difficult it is for them to get all of their roster to have a moment.
for sure, for sure, for sure.
So, I agree with you. A relatively mediocre start. Honestly, not a hot start match, and
Yeah,
that's a shame in the first match slot because I mean, whether it's a pay per view or a TV show, the first and the last matches are kind of like the most important spots. The first match gets the crowd bought in. The last match is the last thing they'll think of, so it'll be the most prevalent thing in their mind. So those are the two most coveted spots, and this was a piteous use of the first match slot.
yeah. And
We're
I
not
think
off
that's
to a good
why
start here.
they opened with the bloodline. Um, I think they were trying to get their strong start there.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
yeah, I agree.
but unfortunately, it's a different type of strong start. Um, that gets people. You bring out wrestlers that people are huge fans of. You get them hype. You had Jey Uso's song going. Uh, so everybody's hyped to see them, but doesn't really end on a super high note. So now you have people kinda excited. Like it didn't basically they kind of shot themselves in the foot with how that was presented. Um and then the first match just not being a banger at all. Um doesn't give us a strong opener overall.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
you know, they had already taken some of the excitement away from the like vignette opener of the bloodline. Um they had already taken some of that away before the match had even started with Bailey and the Ray with some of the backstage stuff. So yeah, I mean it was just and then they didn't help. It doesn't help because right after that, Johnny Gargano. is on the screen
Yep.
talking with the, or he's excited that the Motor City Machine Guns are in WWE, and he's talking with them. And one of them, Chris Sabin, says that he's looking forward to stepping into the ring with DIY. Johnny can't wait to see the Machine City Machine Guns, Motor City, Motor City Machine Guns. Punch Grayson Waller in his face. He comments that he does have a very punchable face, which is the very first thing that I've ever agreed with Johnny Gargano on. Yes, Grayson Waller does in fact have a very punchable face.
Super
Uh,
punchable.
yeah, but then here comes old Tomato Champa, and he doesn't seem very happy that Gargano's laughing and having the funny times.
The funny ones.
Yeah, he doesn't like that he has fun. Um, he's not a fan of it. And he's upset with Gargano. And he's upset that MCMG just walked in and took their spot. And I'm not gonna lie, I understand because I kind of felt like, listen, I don't dislike Machine Motor City. Fuck, it's not
Yes.
that I dislike
Machine City Motor
City.
Guns.
Yes, machine. It's not that I don't like Machine City Motor Guns. Okay, you've done this. I want you to know that. I'm never
did
gonna
that.
get the name right now because it's you. Thanks a lot. Anyway, team dropkick at it again. I'm over here destroying the English language.
Yeah.
Body slamming verbs. Anyway, Motor City. He's upset about it. They just came in and took their spot, and I understand where he's coming from because I kind of felt like, okay, Motor City, how y'all doing? Oh, the belts, just giving them the okay, cool. Um, I did kind of feel that way, especially considering we have lots of tag teams that already exist in WWE, and whenever you do something like that, whenever you bring in a tag team, make them a part of the organization and then give them the belts, you're basically saying to all your other tag teams that already exist, you weren't good enough. Here they are. They're good enough to
Yeah.
get it done. So you guys just got to keep waiting in the line that you fucking created. You see? So I understand.
Yep.
I understand. But by the same token, don't nobody want to see you DIY. Anyway, DIY.
Also true.
Die. Nobody wants to see y'all.
Yep. It's short for do yourself it.
Yes. No, real talk. Nobody wants to see you guys, and because I don't know, man. It's just not. Johnny ain't my favorite. Champa. I wish that you were by yourself. Real talk.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know. I don't know why you aren't. And I let me rephrase. I would love for you to be by yourself, and I would love for them to not bury you. Those two things.
Yep.
I want those two things together.
I do think they're telegraphing a breakup of DIY.
Yeah,
because
I see it
you're
too.
seeing that Ciampa and Gargano are clearly not on the same page.
Yeah.
The way they lost their last match with Motor City was Gargano like super kicking Ciampa in the face, and they're continuing to telegraph that it's falling apart between Gargano and Ciampa. And this isn't the last time either. There's still a match coming up with Pretty Deadly, and we'll see more of that.
Yeah. But here's my problem with that. We've seen several times in the past, and man, there is a podcast that we have coming up later on in this week, guys. That's kind of different from what we've been doing. That discusses a lot about some issues that we feel are very present with tag teams in WWE specifically. But this I feel like what they're gonna do is if they break these guys up, I don't know when we're gonna see Tommaso. I don't, and if we do see him, I don't know if we're gonna see him winning or if he's gonna be jobbing. I don't know, but I feel very confident that we will see plenty of Johnny Gargano. I feel like I feel like they'll find something. They'll do something with him. He'll end up being around people like Rey Mysterio or some shit like LWO something. But I feel like he's gonna end up getting much more TV time than Champa, and I'm not really sure what that's about. But I feel like
Yeah.
it has a lot to do with the fact that somebody like Indy Hartwell gets canned while Candice LeRae remains, and I don't know what that is. I'm not saying either one of them are exceptional wrestlers. I'm just saying Indy Hartwell was the first one to go. Candice LeRae, they still giving TV time to. Johnny Gargano was the first dude we saw right after that. I don't think they're gonna be giving Ciampa, and if they do, they might give Ciampa a heel turn, and they keep Johnny as the face, which means you're gonna see plenty of that. As a matter of fact, you might even see matches between the two where Johnny Gargano is gonna stomp Tommaso Ciampa. That's gonna bury him. Then next thing you know, we'll see him on
Yeah.
NXT. He'll be on NXT for a while. He'll get a little push there. He'll be doing great because he's a phenomenal wrestler. And going back to the beginning, going back to amateur hour, makes you look amazing in the ring with you understand what I'm saying. So now he's gonna go to NXT. He's gonna shine bright like a diamond. Then he's gonna get a push there. Then they're gonna bring him back to WWE where he'll fucking disappear again, and then he'll be fired.
Yeah, I'm
That's the
hoping not.
future. I'm hoping
I'm
not,
sure
but
hoping not, because the one that I'd like to see go is Johnny Gargano. Like,
he
that
ain't going
dude
nowhere.
is a void entertainment wise. Like
Right.
occasionally he can say something that's a little bit funny, but like everything about his presentation, he Johnny Gargano is the default wrestler when you go to create a wrestler in 2K24. Like that is who he is. He might as well just be called Johnny Generic.
I
He is
mean,
so boring. Like, he
I don't
is
disagree
so
with you.
boring.
I don't
And
disagree with you. But
I
but we've seen this time and time again. Look at what happened to Pac when he was in WWE. I say that because he reminds me a lot of Tommaso. I'm telling you, man,
yeah.
that dude's just gonna get buried. He's gonna get buried. The better
Yeah.
wrestler out of the two, and he's gonna get buried. They don't like muscles or something.
Well, the more interesting wrestler out of the two is definitely Champa. And
Yeah,
right now, Tommaso Ciampa is getting buried by being in DIY with Gargano. It's
yeah,
just not there. Whatever they're hoping to make happen there ain't happening. It's so
yeah.
bad. Like, nobody wants to see them. And if Champa, if what happens later is any indication, I'm thinking you might be right about Champa going heel, like a return to the Blackheart. But I don't know if they're going to book him weak based on what we
They are.
saw.
I
So
think they are. And
maybe
that's what I mean
I'm
when I
just
say
saying I
that's what I mean
hope
when I
they
say they're gonna
don't.
bury him because because I think his first competitor, the first person he's gonna have to wrestle is Johnny, and that depends on like that match would depend on whether or not they're interested in burying him or pushing him. If he squashes, if he obliterates Johnny, then he's getting a push. If Johnny whips his ass, Johnny's getting the push, and Tommaso is about to be obscure. So these are all predictions. I'm talking like I read something. I haven't read anything. I'm just saying if they go this route, if they break them up,
See, I don't.
I'm basically looking at years and years of WWE tag team history, especially in
Yeah, no,
since
I feel what you're saying. I'm
yeah.
just trying to describe what I think they should do at this
Oh
point.
yeah, please.
And what they need to do is they need to break Tommaso Ciampa away from Johnny
Yep,
Gargano. They've
I
tried
agree.
pushing Gargano a couple of times now. They tried pushing him versus The Miz. They've tried pushing him versus Austin Theory. And the dude doesn't latch on for long with the crowd. Like, he's just not interesting enough. I mean,
Yeah,
that's just the bottom line. Him and Candice LeRae are just dog shit boring as performers. They just are.
yeah.
And no amount of Triple H's personal infatuation with either one of them will change that. Meanwhile, Tommaso Ciampa, I think, could be very interesting. The last time we saw them try to make him have a push was when he went up against Gunter and actually gave Gunter a really good match. And then
Yeah.
it went no freaking where. So
Nope.
they need to give Tommaso a big push all on his own and let him do his Blackheart business.
Yeah.
And that's the only way I think Ciampa gets off the ground, because like since he's been on the main roster, he hasn't been anywhere near the Blackheart. He came over as a super fanatic of the Miz.
Yeah.
And then he just got trapped in this like limbo of DIY and that whole little clique from like NXT that was just not that great.
Yeah, because they were. I feel like they were trying to give Johnny a push at that point, but in order to do so, they had to basically put an anchor on Tommaso Ciampa.
Yeah, and
And I
I'm
feel like
I'm
the only
honestly
person that's paying for that now is Tommaso Ciampa.
yeah, and I'm real glad that Dexter Loomis escaped that vortex of go nowhereness that
Oh man,
that surrounds anything having to do with Gargano and that whole group.
I was
Because now
very
that he's with
concerned.
the
Yeah,
Wyatt Six, he's 1,000 times in a better spot. He's
I
way
agree.
more interesting. And I think they could do something similar. Not necessarily. I'm not saying stick Ciampa in the Wyatt Six. I'm not saying do something identical, but I think they could do something similar to get Tommaso Ciampa out of the Gargano boring vortex.
Yeah,
And just let him do his own thing. Don't pit him with somebody lame like The Miz. Don't pit him with someone like Johnny Gargano. Let Tommaso Ciampa just be the Blackheart and terrorize. And I think we'll be doing okay. You know, I'm trying to salvage what is salvageable from the DIY situation. Johnny Gargano, never. That's never
no,
going to be a thing. But Tommaso
no,
Ciampa can be.
yeah.
Um, that said, we close out that segment and we cut to Randy Orton coming out to the ring, and he's storming to the ring. He's pissed off,
Big mad. He big
and
mad.
he is big mad. And he grabs the mic, and he tells everyone, "Crown Jewel was only the beginning. I'm going to end this shit now. Kevin Owens, I want you to get your ass out here right now, and I'm going to whoop your ass in front of the entire world. You hear me? Get out here." And Kevin Owens appears on the stage with a whole bunch of the referee corps, and they're trying to, they're trying gently to keep him from doing anything because he's seeming pretty chill. But
Yeah,
then
he's pretty chill.
he waits for him to get just a hair too comfortable, and then he like sidesteps past one of them and rushes the ring. And he and Orton are kind of going back and forth a little bit, like punch, punch, punchy punch, and then Owens hits a low blow, and then while Orton is doubled over, Owens nails Randy Orton with a pile driver. And this ties directly into what I was saying when they were like, oh, it's a new, darker, extra naughty Kevin Owens that,
Extra
during the
naughty.
repackage. And I said, well, what if they decided to reintroduce pile drivers to the WWE by way of this storyline? And
You did call it.
and freaking behold, it
You
looks like,
called it.
I mean,
Yeah.
what can I say?
No, you called it. I honestly.
Yep.
Even while it was happening, we were like, "Oh snap!"
Yep. And like Corey acted like he was about to start crying about it, and I'm like, oh man, they're like the illegal pile driver. It's like Kevin Owens whipped out like an entire like 6 lines of cocaine and made Orton snort them the way they're like, this move has been banned since 1483. We haven't seen pile drivers here ever. And I mean, they're just
16
losing
people
it.
have died from pile drivers.
Yes. Meanwhile, on AEW, we're seeing people using pile drivers as like mid-match moves that dudes kick out of, but they're like Owens hits him with like the gentlest of possible pile drivers.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even like Kevin Owens' trademark package pile driver.
Yeah.
But it is a pile driver nonetheless. Now they've been teasing it a little bit. We've been getting like, Cody Rhodes did a vertebreaker, in a pay-per-view, and then, more often we're seeing the Canadian Destroyer being used. And now they've finally crossed the line. We cannot go back. We have put the pile driver back on the menu, boys.
Yes.
And
children weep.
And children are crying, women are screaming,
babies explode.
Yes.
What the hell?
So they finally did a pile driver after 18,000 years of banning that move
Yeah, they
and
did a pile
other
driver, and
variations.
no shit, 4 people passed out in the front.
Seriously,
Because I mean, it is a move that has been banned.
yep.
Uh,
And
banned.
so after delivering this very this very cuddly pile driver to
The
Orton,
soft driver.
um, I mean, he was leaning back with it, lifted Orton back over his shoulders after he hit
He
it.
took, yeah, he took great
He gave
care.
him the nicest pile driver he could give to someone. And then they're like, Orton's neck is broken. By God, he ain't gonna make it. And so
My
they load,
God,
by God, he broke him
he
in half.
broke him in half.
And so they load Orton up on a stretcher,
Yeah,
and Cody Rhodes is out there because Cody Rhodes must, of course, be out there.
he has to be out
He
there
has to be. And
in his
so
suit.
Cody Rhodes, they follow him back to the back as he's being stretchered out. The whole time they've got Orton mic'd, and he's like, "Ooh, ew,
Ooh, ah,
he's just
oh,
moaning about
oh,
his neck,
oh.
and
Yeah.
he's so hamming it up. And they load him up in the ambulance, and Cody Rhodes is like, "I'm gonna ride with him," and it's like, And so that's it. Cody Rhodes and Orton ride away in the ambulance while
Yeah.
Corey acts like he just saw, the most tragic of tragedies occur in the universe.
My God.
Precisely. And after that,
22 kittens drop dead.
22 exactly. Every day that many kittens perish from pile drivers in the ring.
Meanwhile, the ladies in AEW do power drives to say hello to each other, and
Yeah, seriously.
and for in WWE, they're like, "Not the power driver."
Yeah. Hey, I'm okay with
It
them
was
making a
great. It
big
was great.
I'm okay with them making a big deal about it because,
Absolutely.
like, I'm telling you, if WWE wants to be able to compete in terms of work rate with someone like AEW, they're going to have to allow these moves to make a comeback.
Yeah.
And I just think everybody in wrestling, whether you're an AEW fan, WWE fan, or just a professional wrestling fan, you'll be happy to see these things come back.
Yeah.
So I'm here for it. I'm waiting to see because like the next upgrade will be not only did he do a pile driver, but he did a package pile driver. Oh my God! And
Yep.
then whenever
That's next.
Penta and Ray can come back over, Penta will have a match with Kevin Owens to see who is truly the master of the package pile driver.
Yeah.
And that would be amaze balls. Fear
Yeah,
Factor
for
versus
it.
package pile driver. Go. You know,
Yeah.
oh man, that would be a heck of a match too. If they weren't if they are unshackled with regards to what they're allowed to do in terms of work rate in the ring, Kevin Owens and Penta El Cerro Miedo would be fantastic. That
Man, yeah,
match
that'd be a
would be
great
so
match.
good.
Yeah.
So
I'm not crazy excited about Penta and basically the brothers coming to WWE just yet because I can already see a neutered moveset in their future. Which is always the case. So
yeah, that's something that WWE is going to have to let go of. And now they're
yeah.
owned by TKO, right? Like if somebody's in a UFC fight and like they happen to get pile driven, no one's going to be like, "Oh, banned move." I mean,
Yeah.
we see far more violent things on the UFC. So I think it'll be okay. I'm not saying WWE needs to suddenly be like, "Yep, we're going to have barbed wire exploding cinder block syringe matches." They don't need to go that far, but bringing back pile drivers, power bombs, nasty looking suplexes, I'm here for that.
Yeah.
I want to see a comeback of things like tiger suplexes and dragon suplexes on WWE as well. So if that's where they're going, I'm along for that ride.
Yeah. I'm here for it if that's what they're doing. I don't think we even talked about. No, we haven't. We talked about the second match yet. The second match.
Not yet, but we are now because
Yeah.
after that segment, we are brought to our second match, which is DIY versus Pretty Deadly. And it looks like DIY is already in the ring because I seem to recall we only watched Pretty Deadly's entrance.
Yeah, and they were in
And
the ring too. We were watching the ending of their
yeah,
entrance.
so
And
in this particular match, the thing that is most noteworthy is that Ciampa starts and finishes the match, and at no point tags in Johnny Gargano. And
yeah,
in that time, it's not a long match. I think it went maybe 8 minutes tops.
maybe I doubt it was that long.
Ciampa kicks the living crap out of both Kit Wilson and Elton Prince. Like, he beats both members of Pretty Deadly by himself.
Yeah,
And he finishes the match by I think Elton Prince was the one that was legal. He throws him into the ring after beating the crap out of both of them, kind of outside the ring, and then he completely obliterates Elton Prince with the fairy tale ending and gets the 1-2-3 without ever having tagged in Gargano. And then when the match is over, he just kind of hops out and like he's not really even acknowledging Gargano. So this is very much them heavily signaling that DIY is coming to an end.
yeah. And if I may, I think that this match answers my previous question about or answers basically my sentiment about them bringing in a brand new tag team to give them the belts because they're too busy using their superstars to bury. Um,
The tag
pretty,
division.
yeah, yeah. They're too busy using the ones they already have to just cover them in shit. Um, and then just send them on their way.
Yeah.
How insulting is it to come from NXT to WWE, that just come to the main roster to push a goofy musical, to be basically the circus monkeys for Nia Jax, and now two men have the honor of being squashed by one mid Carter.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well,
with the greatest of ease for his
yeah.
storyline, because
Yep.
and let me tell you why this is so insulting, because eventually if this goes the way that I thought it might go earlier, my prediction from earlier, if it goes that way, then they buried two men for one dude just to bury his ass later. That's
Well, I'm
awesome.
actually I have a different vision for that. I don't disagree that it's unfortunate that Pretty Deadly had to do the job again, but I mean it's Friday, you know
I
that
mean,
hasn't changed. But if it's leading to them breaking up these put together tag teams that consist of two singles wrestlers, and so that they're no longer taking up space from the dedicated tag teams, I'm here for it. And let me also tell you why I hope they don't bury Ciampa. You know how we just got finished coming off of Crown Jewel saying, LA Knight looked great, but we have no idea who he's going to feud with next. Maybe Randy
mhm,
Orton, maybe.
mhm.
Um, that whole mid card title division with LA Knight opens up very wide if you insert a Tommaso Ciampa who is on the warpath. It opens up as well if you break apart freaking Austin Theory and Grayson Waller.
I
Those are
agree.
three guys right there who could all be great challengers for the United States Championship, which is looking a little threadbare since you pretty much burned your way through two guys real fast with Carmelo and Andrade. Um, so I think it would be brilliant if this gave them a good reason to break up these throw together tag teams and send some of these men upward towards the U.S. title.
It would be. I absolutely agree. If that's the way they're going. If not, then
Yeah.
I'm going to look back on this night as the night that they buried three dudes.
Yeah, that's the other way they could go with it, but
I'm hoping that's
I'm
not the way to go. Listen, what I'm
yeah,
doing is picking the absolute negative, the worst of the worst, because I
yeah.
have seen WWE do this in the past. I'm hoping I am hoping that in the Triple H era that doesn't occur. I'm hoping,
Yeah.
even though in his era, Johnny Gargano exists, and so does whatever. We'll see. We'll see. I'm telling
Yeah.
you, I'm here for it. I'm just giving you. I'm the other voice. I'm the heel here. Just
Oh yeah.
that's me. Okay.
Hey, I can
So
dig it. It's not like the WWE hasn't had some missteps, and that's the truth. But I have to give them some credit for some things they're doing.
yeah,
They just introduced a mid card. Wait, am I giving away the ghost here? I might be. Hold on. Yeah, I'm gonna hold off on what I was about to say.
I think it's all right
Um,
if you go ahead and say that now. I mean, that's not like a spoiler or anything. It's just we just remember that when we get to that point, we don't mention it. Yeah, I think it's fine.
Well, considering that they just announced, and this happened later in the evening, but Nick Aldis announces that the women's division just got a little more competitive with the introduction of the WWE Women's United States Championship. So
Excited.
now they have presented, as we have said, they need to do so bad, is to add some more belts. They have presented the women of SmackDown with a mid card title to pursue the Women's United States Championship, and I couldn't be more happy.
Yup.
And if they're paying attention to their mid card, just in general, not just for the women, or even the idea of more prizes and more belts, which I think is a good call,
Mhm. Mhm.
then breaking up some of these throw together tag teams significantly improves what people can go after. Again, Champa, Waller, and Theory should all be chasing after that U.S. belt and would make for some great matchups with LA Knight.
I
I
agree.
think that would be fantastic. And in the women's division, I mean, that gives us so many more options for belts to pursue. I kind of thought when Nick Aldis announced it, I think I said, why didn't Tiffany Stratton just walk up to Nick Aldis, hand him the briefcase, and say, give me my U.S. title belt?
That
you
would be
know,
awesome.
that would have been so good. She's
I
just
would. Oh my
She's
god.
the inaugural United States Women's Champion because she cashed
Yes.
in before anybody won it and just became the de facto champ. That would have been such a neat use of the money in the bank.
Oh my god. I would have been here for it. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm hoping that they are looking at broadening opportunities, not truncating them. And I think it would be a terrible waste, especially of Tommaso Ciampa, because, he was a beast in NXT. So I want to see
Yeah.
that guy on the main roster. Stop using him as a chump and use him as a champ.
Yeah.
It's in his name, for frick's sake.
Yep. I look. I don't disagree. I'm hoping. Like I said, I'm just being the heel here, and most of the time that is usually uh that's usually my path. Okay, my path is usually for the
Hey,
Empire. All right.
I can
I
dig it.
don't
And
don't judge me, guys. So I have to go. I have to go. Well, they could do this or they're at and then we have the voice of reason, which is Josh.
well,
Um,
I'm more like, this is what I'd like to see. This is the voice of me, the fan. Show me this. This is what I want. This is the story I want you to tell me. This is what I want to see happen to this product that I like.
yeah.
So from there, after Champa destroyed Pretty Deadly, um, we are brought to our third match, which is Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill versus
Mhm.
Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton.
Mhm. Mhm.
And would you like to do the honors here?
I would. I just had a hiccup attack.
Oh no.
Ah. All right.
Tell
Woo.
it no. Don't tap
Stop
out. Don't tap out.
it. I don't want to be talking like so. Jake Cargill. um. But this. I. I don't know if everybody was just tired or or what, But this match wasn't as hyped as I thought it would be. I'm not saying it was bad, but it just wasn't as what's the word I'm looking for? You know what? Maybe I was anticipating a much more high octane match, and when I didn't get that, I was just projecting my disappointment. I don't know, but and maybe it's just me. You let me know what you think, Josh. But it was kind of it wasn't a bad match. Can't quite put my finger on it. Um, it wasn't a bad match, but it just jeez.
Well, I think what took away from it is that there's a good match to be had. At least I believe so.
Yeah, yeah,
With the individuals involved here. I mean, you've got Jade Cargill, you've got Bianca Belair, you've
right.
got Nia Jackson, Tiffany Stratton. But what I think took a little bit away from it, because I mean, I'm not gonna. The in ring was good. Nobody did
It was
anything bad,
good,
and there was a point
right?
in there where where oh come on, Bianca Belair hit a really nice spear. She doesn't throw them often,
Yes.
but hers looked real good. And she also, I mean, the in ring was good, but then it sort of broke down when you introduced Candice LeRae, who is starting to interfere, and then
Oh,
Stratton's like, "I
yeah,
don't need your help, get out." And that was just enough of a distraction for Stratton to get knocked into like she was standing on the ropes, and she gets knocked down in such a way that it makes it easy for Bianca Belair to um lift her up into the KOD and pick up the victory. And I think what took away from it was that outside interference, because this is actually a match with four women who could really give us a banger. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
Stratton can absolutely go. Her character is annoying, but her as a wrestler is phenomenal. And Nia
right.
Jax has been looking better. She's a little hard for some of the women to work with because I mean she's just so big that they can't quite get their lifts to look right.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill, who are two of probably the only women who can actually, if they need to, throw Nia around. Um, so there's a huge match here to be had, but then LeRae's interference just kind of took away from it, and it wasn't quite the banger that we thought it could be because that's what story they're trying to tell. Like they're trying to have Candice LeRae compete now to be Nia Jax's prime lackey, and it's
Yeah,
like what?
yeah.
So
Also, I'm not even sure why Nia Jax would entertain that because she hasn't let Tiffany make one screw up before she was like, nope, moving on, found somebody else, and she found Candice LeRae apparently who's screwed up twice, three times now, and apparently she's just around. So
well,
I
and I don't know how we're supposed to interpret because I know WWE likes to pretend that most of the fans these days are not looking at everything online and considering that when they are watching the program, but everybody is looking at everything online and considering that when they watch the program.
yeah,
So you can pretend that we didn't see that the only reason LeRae has ever won anything ever was because of Indy Hartwell. Well, how bad does it look that you fired the woman who was the only reason this other woman ever won? You know, that makes
yeah.
me double question why Candice LeRae is still there when that was how this is being played. Um,
I'm
so
just saying.
So, whatever Nia Jax might care, I don't know that she gives two craps about Candice LeRae being there, but LeRae only ever won because Indy Hartwell interfered on her behalf. So that magic is gone. So forget about it. So I'm not
I'm
sure what they're
just
trying to
saying.
do with their insertion of LeRae here, but I'm just
Give her
underwhelmed with
something
it.
to do.
Yeah, basically, it's what that feels like. It feels like they're desperately trying some way to find something for LeRae and Gargano to do that doesn't just somehow stink up a better story with better wrestlers. And I'm sorry I sound so down on both of them, but I don't know any of these people personally. They might be great people. Clearly, Triple H is in love with both of these people. Um, so they must have won him over somehow. But that said, as far as like what they do for me when they appear on screen on any of the, on SmackDown is it makes my interest drop into the floor is what they do for me. So,
Yeah.
I really do feel like you're trying desperately to find a place to stick these people that have no place on this show because they're just not entertaining at all. So,
Yep.
that's where I'm coming at it from. It's not personal. I'm just speaking as a fan of the product and what I like to see on screen versus what I don't. And there it is.
Yeah.
There's your feedback. So we end up with Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill winning via pinfall. And I don't think it was a disappointing match in and of itself, but I think we were disappointed because it could have been so much more of a match than what we ended up with here. Especially with these four women. Like that is an all-star cast that ended up being put into like a B- movie, basically. That's how that match was for me.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
And that brings us to the fourth match of the night, which is the Motor City Machine Guns versus A-Town Down Under. And not gonna lie, this might have been. Let me do a quick mental review here. Yeah, so far, that would be the match of the night for me. Is probably this one. A-Town Down Under did their normal shtick. I mean, they looked fine.
Yeah.
But I'm actually kind of impressed with the Motor City Machine Guns. I wasn't sure what to make of them because I'm not familiar with their storied history that has apparently changed tag team wrestling as we know it. I only know them from like one match that they had that wasn't really like it. To me, it was like a filler match in AEW. So I was like, oh, okay, who these guys? Sure. And now I'm just watching them for the first time since they've hit SmackDown, and 4 matches in or so, I'm kind of impressed with the two. They're really good. Their tag team work is very, very good. They're great in the ring. The couple of times they've had some mic time, they've been quippy and a little bit funny. They're winning me over. I'm a fan of the Motor City Machine Guns. So this ended up being my match of the night because the work rate was very, very good between these 4 men.
I agree. This match, honestly, I think it was the best match of the night. A-Town Down Under, they do the damn thing. I know we talk a lot about punchable face, being very punchable, but he can go in the ring. Um, he always has, and it's
Oh
kind
yeah,
of
yep.
it's kind of unfortunate that he comes from NXT and gets tied up into a tag team with Austin Theory, who they are pretty down on right now. I'm not sure what he did.
I feel like he's being punished for having been a McMahon pick, and I'm like,
Yeah,
I don't
but
think
I
that's
mean,
fair because
is
he
that
isn't
his fault?
McMahon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know what I
that's
mean?
my position too.
I
I
mean, to
really
be
think it would
honest,
be good for A-Town Down if they also ended up breaking apart and kind of having singles careers and a mid
yeah,
card title. More shots in the mid card with the US title would be good. Like build up
yeah,
Theory, build up Waller, build up Ciampa, and now you've got some great opponents to run against LA Knight.
yeah, yeah. But punchable face Waller has never been like his in-ring work has never been a problem. His his mic work isn't a problem. Um, so I don't know. I hope they break him up because I like to see Grayson doing something else. And I hope they get off of Theory's ass for whatever it is that he did. Climb down out of the man's ass to let him do his damn thing in the ring. Um, it's not his fault who picked him. And if I'm not mistaken, it wasn't Triple H a McMahon pick. Like, fuck, he owns the company now.
Everybody prior to Triple H was a
Yeah,
McMahon pick.
yeah,
Look,
exactly.
let me just say
So
one
how
thing
about
about
we
that.
just calm down about it? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
if I may,
Yeah,
let me just say this. I know McMahon is a skis ball, right? And we've seen some of the text messages and whatnot. I'm not debating that. Like, dude
yeah,
has some problems. But I'd really like to be able to separate this idea that just because he was a scumbag in this one area, suddenly we have to like pretend like the dude didn't revolutionize professional wrestling as we know it, and that he apparently never had an eye for talent. Neither of those things are true.
yeah,
Just because he might be like a weirdo sex offender, that's not excused either, and I'm sure
no,
he'll end up paying whatever the court and the investigations find. But let's not pretend that the guy didn't do all of the things he did for this industry, including picking Triple H, including having Stephanie McMahon who married Triple H. I mean, come on.
yeah,
Two things can be true simultaneously, guys. And so this idea that we need to punish Theory in all likelihood because Vince McMahon had picked him is very stupid, and it does start to feel like Triple H has got a vendetta out for anybody who was like a McMahon pick at this point. And it's like, cut it out, dude. If that's the
yeah,
case, then fire him and let him go to AEW or TNA or someplace there where he's not carrying that stigma that he will never get out from under,
yeah,
with you because you can't be professional about things.
yeah. I agree. And you know what? I'll also say that you're basically, if you're doing this, if you're punishing uh uh A Town, if you're punishing Austin, uh
Yeah,
because
Theory.
he was if you're punishing Austin because he was a Vince pick, then you are by proxy punishing Grayson for the same thing. Uh, and you're
Yep.
basically shit canning both men in at the prime time of their careers, man. Uh, they're at the best age right now. They're seasoned professionals. They know the move. Like they're ready to go, and this is what you give them. Hey, not. I'm happy that you have them in the main event for tonight. I believe technically this is the main event. Um, I'm happy about that. I know they ain't winning. I know that though. Like I already know. I already know coming into this match that A Town Down Under ain't coming out of this match the victors. I get it. That's fine. What I'm saying is, I just wish you had something else for these dudes instead of shit canning them. Instead of shit canning Austin. I honestly, maybe somebody knows something that Austin did. Because I mean, uh, back in the day, Baron Corbin said something or did something that basically got him punished by getting shit canned, and he's never really recovered from that. So
Yeah.
did Austin do something like that? Is there something
But
that he did that pissed people off backstage? And
my
now
answer is yeah, it's possible, but my answer doesn't change. If you're going to keep him on your roster, then utilize him to the best of his abilities instead of wasting. Because athletes only have they have a shelf life, and so the meanest thing you could do is burn this guy's time to make a big name for himself. Because I
yeah,
mean, each pro wrestler is basically a contractor, and they are building their own brand. And if you're wasting his precious years and just sitting on him and punishing him for some freaking thing, then you're better off letting him go so that he can reinvent himself elsewhere.
yeah,
But if you're punishing just because he was a hot pick by Vince McMahon, how is that his fault? One, and
yeah,
two, when is the punishment up? Because like this guy is busting his ass out there. He's got a killer physique. He's good at doing his little mean guy characters. Let him actually thrive here, or let him go so that he can thrive somewhere else.
I agree. Yeah. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, I really hate to see these guys whose careers might only have a decade, or maybe if they're lucky, they can stretch it out a little longer. But don't waste these men's prime years when they're at their most bankable and have an opportunity to really build themselves into a brand in this industry that they've chosen to perform in. That said, the Motor City Machine Guns did pick up the win via pinfall by hitting the Skull and Bones, I believe, on Theory. Let's see, was it Theory? No, actually, it might have been Waller. But they hit the Skull and Bones, which looks cool, and they pick up the victory. And then in the back, we see Tommaso Ciampa throwing a fit because I think Aldis was back there, and Tommaso and Gargano are trying to make their case for deserving a rematch. But then he ends up telling them that the Street Profits actually have the next shot at the WWE Tag Team Champs. And Motor City Machine Guns also roll up. And so that was where Tommaso was going to try and give him a piece of his mind because he was upset that Gargano wasn't.
Yeah.
And essentially, it frustrates Ciampa and Gargano because the Street Profits are going to be up next. And then they storm off, and that leaves the Motor City Machine Guns and the Profits kind of, dealing with one another. And the Machine Guns basically say they're cool with the Street Profits being up next because they're here to wrestle the best, and they're looking forward to the challenge. And Dawkins says they're looking forward to seeing how MCMG handles real pressure. So next week we've got Profits versus Machine Guns.
I'm here for it, although I kind of feel like Tommaso might interfere. I don't know.
It's a possibility, but I'm more inclined to think that Tommaso is going to end up taking out his frustrations on Gargano first, because that's who he seemed really the most upset about. But he's definitely frustrated. We also get told that next week on SmackDown, Nia Jax will put her WWE Women's Championship on the line against Naomi. I'm here for it. I don't know if Naomi will win, but I always hope that she might, because she has been excellent since returning to the WWE, and her in-ring work has only improved.
Yeah. I agree. And I don't know if she's going to win either, but I'm rooting for her. I'm. You know what? More importantly, above all, I'm expecting a very good match between the two. But I am hoping that she picks up the victory.
Indeed. And after that, we come to the Nick Aldis announcement that I sort of gave away before. He talks about how the women of WWE have broken down every glass ceiling, overcome every obstacle, and proven themselves to be the definition of talent, resilience, athleticism, and ruthlessness. But above all, they've redefined success for women in professional wrestling. And that was sort of the speech he gives before presenting the new symbol of excellence, the WWE Women's United States Championship. Hooray, the women have a mid-card title on SmackDown, which makes me think that on Raw, we're going to see Adam Pearce do a similar thing with the Intercontinental belt. So I'm hopeful for that too.
Yep.
But congrats, ladies. That's nothing but good news. A new opportunity to take advantage of, and hopefully it works out great. But that moves us into the final segment of SmackDown, which is Solo Sikoa's Undisputed Tribal Chief Acknowledgement Ceremony. Say that 5 times fast.
No.
No, thank you. So we have Solo and his bloodline make their way to the ring, and Solo ends up getting the mic, and he says, "There's only one way to start this off, Buffalo." Mentioning Buffalo, New York, and he says, "Acknowledge me."
Ooh.
And immediately Roman Reigns makes his way down to the ring. And it's just him, Oos. It's just Roman all by himself.
Romo
Romo
Romo.
Romo and Solo. And Solo once the OTC makes his way into the ring says, "First of all, it's good to see you. Before I have them acknowledge me, there's something I need from you. I need you to acknowledge me as your undisputed tribal chief." And Roman Reigns looks around incredulously, and then he looks out to the crowd and says, "Buffalo." And they're waiting for him to say, "Acknowledge me," but he doesn't. He says, "Do you acknowledge him?" And the entire audience is like, "No." Like, and he says, "Neither do I. I won't ever acknowledge you. I'm here to challenge you one-on-one. Winner is the only tribal chief." And Solo gets the mic back and says, "The winner is the only tribal chief? I don't need to fight you. I've already proved that I'm the undisputed tribal chief, baby. And in case you haven't noticed, Roman, all these people acknowledge me." Apparently, in case Solo hasn't noticed, none of those people acknowledge him.
Solo on some cray.
Yeah, he's on some cray-cray. But he goes on to say, as a matter of fact, you can't be a tribal chief because there's no tribe. Him pointing to the fact that Roman's out there by himself. And you want to challenge me?
Sorry.
No, it was great. And anyway, I'm not going to make it. And he goes on to say, you want to challenge me? Let me challenge you. Let me challenge you, Roman. I challenge you to go back there and find 4 dudes that would team up with you. And at that moment in time, you and I were watching and we're like, 4 dudes? So a total of 5 men? And we were confused by that. But he goes on and he says, go find that would team up with you and we can go to war. Yeah, Roman, I know you would like to go to war. We're always ready for war. And Roman says, hold on, you're talking about war games? He says, I only see 4 of you. And Solo walks around to each member of his team. He points at himself and he says, 1. And then like to Tonga, to Jacob, 2. Then to Tama, 3. Then to Tonga, 4. And he goes, my 5th guy is my dog, Sami Zayn. And at that point, it kind of shows you that Sami Zayn has stepped out onto the entrance ramp stage. And everyone's like, oh, snap. Did Sami Zayn join up with the bad guy bloodline? Holy crap. And so the bloodline starts wailing on Roman. And Sammy's kind of standing out there. And then Sami runs into the ring. I'm sorry. No. Yeah. Then Jimmy and Jay run out to the ring, and they run past Sami. And at that point, all hell is kind of breaking loose. And then Sami makes his way into the ring, and Solo and his bloodline have the one up on Roman. And he tells Sami to kick Roman in the face and sets him up so that he can get Haluva kicked. But Sami then clocks Solo with the Haluva kick. And Roman nails Jacob with the Superman punch. And Sami follows that up with another Haluva kick. And that leads to Roman spearing Solo. And the original tribal chief and his bloodline have taken control of the ring. And they're all kind of standing in there looking at each other like, okay, what now? Because the way things had been left, Roman was a man on his own, right? So Jimmy is the first one to put his finger in the air. He put his one up. And then Sami follows suit. Then Jay follows suit. And then shortly thereafter, Sami does the same thing. And then Roman finishes it off, and we end the night with the OG bloodline hitting their ones up as the show goes off the air.
Yeah. So now they just need the wise man. They just need the wise man and possibly another member. Another member.
Well, there's a couple of things. Yeah, there's a couple of things to address there. One, that what Solo said there sort of telegraphs that they're looking not just for 4-man teams, but for 5-man teams, which makes me think this might be where we get the insertion potentially of Hikuleo or like the taller Tonga, and also Zilla Fatu might make their appearances if they're going to, because then you would have like if one joins each of the two teams, right? Like if one goes to one team and the other to the other, then you have 2 5-man teams that can go to war games. And I say that because there's very little like incidentally said things. There's always sort of a clue, a foreshadowing, if you will. And Solo kind of making a point about the number of people on the teams makes me think that they are going for 5-man teams, which historically, like since War Games is Survivor Series, historically the male teams have had 5 members.
So you don't think he misspoke? You think he meant to say 5?
Well, I mean, he even counted off and he said the
He
5th
did.
member is Sami Zayn, right? Like that was extremely intentional. And I think there's a point to be made there, is that now we see that there's only 4 men on each team. So to fill out their war games.
You think we got enough time though? You think we got enough time before War Games to get the bloodline, the OG bloodline, back on the same page? Reintroduce the wise man, because I mean they're gonna have to, and then introduce a new guy.
Well, I don't think it'll be too long before we see the wise man. It was my understanding, and this is one of the things I wanted to mention. In the internet rumor mill, it has come to my attention that Paul Heyman was actually backstage for this SmackDown. He just didn't make an appearance, but he was there.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So I think the wise man is about to hit the scene real quick.
Like, did they show him or something? We didn't see him, or
No. This is buzz from the internet.
Okay. All right, I'm here for it. All right, well, let's
and it
go.
could be that Solo introduces Hikuleo as a new member of his team, and Roman's like, well, now what do we do? We're outnumbered, and this is all of our bloodline. We ain't got a new guy. And then the wise man steps up and he's like, well, now hold on. I know some people, and I have someone in mind. And maybe that's what the wise man brings to the party, is that he goes and finds a brand fresh new Heyman guy. Because it would make sense for Hikuleo to join up with Tama Tonga and Tongaleo, because I think he's related to them actually. Like they're all related to each other, but I think he's closely related to and has worked with in other promotions Tama Tonga. So it would make sense that Solo grabs Hikuleo. So Zilla Fatu, which is Jacob Fatu's actual brother, would be an interesting guy to put on Roman's team. As a foil to Jacob, kind of a thing.
Yeah. Ukulele I've never heard of, or whatever his name is.
Ukulele. Hikuleo.
Bless you. But Piccolo?
I think they would have to do it quickly because Survivor Series War Games is at the end of November, and it's already November 11th. So it's going to have to happen sometime in the next 2 weeks, but they could do it. So if they're going to do it, now would be the time to do it, because if you're going to need your 5-man teams, it's time to introduce some new players to the game. But that's how I would envision it going, is that Solo's like, well, good for you, Roman. You reassembled your bloodline, but you're still a man shy to go to war. Let me introduce you to the taller Tonga, Hikuleo. And he's all like, boom. And then the camera pans up because Hikuleo is like 6'9", and they could make that introduction real quick. And then you put the OG bloodline on their back foot, and they're like, oh man, we just got the band back together, and we realize we're missing the keyboard player. And that's when the wise man's like, well, hang on. I'm the wise man, cuckoo,
Are you
cuckoo. And
sure about that?
yeah, so I could see that happening pretty easily over the next couple of weeks leading into Survivor Series War Games.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and then, as the war continues, as we march on into, the road to WrestleMania, you could have the bad bloodline and the good bloodline going at each other. You could also have time for Cody Rhodes to have a match with the final boss, and that could set the stage for us finding out that the final boss has been behind Solo's bloodline the whole time, and he's in fact really the tribal chief because he owns the table. He owns the building that the table's in. He owns the building, the table, and the house. Whose house? Not Swerve's house, because he sits on the board of TKO. And now we set up the final boss and Roman Reigns going one on one with each other, with The Rock being the defending champion because he'll end up beating Cody Rhodes for it, and he'll end up with the undisputed championship and the People's Championship, and Cody Rhodes can suck it and Roman Reigns can eat it, and he's going to shove both belts sideways and stick them straight up both of their candy asses. And that sets the stage for the OG bloodline to come in and eradicate, Solo's little group and the final boss. And we see Roman and Rock at WrestleMania as one of the most but this time it's not like, oh, we're just inserting this shit, hope you like it. It's going to be like the crowd can't wait for it because they all want Roman to demolish The Rock.
Yeah. Man, that'd be awesome. That would be awesome, and I would like to see it. But it looks like they're going that route. It looks I don't disagree that that's the route they're taking. And if you're correct, then man, that's
I can't think of a more
times.
epic WrestleMania 41 setup than that, with the Civil War, the Bloodline Civil War heading into Roman Rock as the culmination of this split in the family tree. I think it would be great. And then at WrestleMania 41, the whole world will acknowledge Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
And I think it would be the most epic of conclusions to that whole scenario, the whole Anoa'i family domination of WWE for the last a billion years. And, we'll go from there. But I think that is the direction that we're heading, and I'm here for it. That is the thrill ride I would like to hop onto and enjoy.
Yeah.
And I think it could be very, very cool. But yeah, I think with Survivor Series coming up in the next couple of weeks, if we're going to get Hikuleo and Zilla, then it's going to happen then.
Yeah.
So, all things said and done, what is your review of WWE SmackDown?
It was good, but it was not top tier. For me, top tier is 8 and up. I would call this one maybe a 7.5. They moved the storyline for the Bloodline, which was the most important thing I think for a Friday night for SmackDown. But other than that, everything else is kind of. I mean, they moved other storylines too. It's just meh. I mean, it was an okay show. The matches were okay. So, a 7. I think a 7 because of the work rate and how together the show was. I mean, it was, flow. The flow was nice. Everything went according plan, I think. There were no real flubs, no real injuries or bumps or whatever. Everybody went in there and did the damn thing. So solid 7.
I can dig that.
What about you?
Well, I think for me, I'm going to end up agreeing with you. I think I sit right at about a 7 neck nubs. And the reason for that is a lot of what you said. Like none of the matches themselves were mind blowing. Nothing happened in the ring that was particularly great, but there was some stuff that happened out of the ring that was pretty amazing. Like the introduction of the Women's United States title is a big deal. Several of the spots in the backstage obviously were pretty good. And of course, everything that had anything to do with the bloodline was outstanding. Like that's what you came to see, and you got some. But I can't just let the bloodline stuff carry the entirety of SmackDown. And, if I just wanted to watch a TV show about the WWE, this would be pretty good, but I actually come for the wrestling as well.
Yeah.
Like I like the whole thing. And nothing happened in the ring that was mind-blowing. I mean, I will say that the Motor City Machine Guns match was good, but it wasn't mind-blowingly good. Like, it wasn't like, oh, match of the year. And Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill versus Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton has all the potential in the world, but it wasn't realized here. And, the other two matches were okay. I mean, like one of them was fully a story match. Like all we saw with the second match was Tommaso Ciampa beating up Pretty Deadly, which might as well have been a segment. Because it was more for the story. This idea that Ciampa has entirely lost faith in the tag team of DIY and specifically lost faith in Gargano. He didn't tag him in. He handled the business all on his own because it clearly sends a message that he can't trust to get it done any other way. It's definitively doing it yourself. So it had storyline, but it wasn't like a great match. It was like a squash. And squashes serve a purpose, but it really is just to get somebody over. And that's what I think it did for Ciampa. And then the weakest match of the night was Bayley Candice LeRae. So given how mediocre the in-ring stuff was, like it was somewhere between mediocre and some stuff that was good, but nothing that was top tier. So I fully agree with your 7 rating. It is just not enough to leave what happens in the ring being the weakest portion of the wrestling show. No matter how good the stuff outside of the ring is, it can't push that into top tier unless you're killing it in the ring too. So, and most of the stuff that happens in backstage segments or in segments like that even happen in the ring is stuff that'll appear on the internet. So, like, you can find that stuff out, but I really need the wrestling to be the center of a wrestling show. So for me, it is also not top tier. It's not terrible. I'll give it 7 out of 10 neck nubs, but not top tier.
Yeah.
So with that all said, our next episode, you had mentioned that we've got a news segment coming up, which is more or less like top tier, wrestling talk, like kind of state of the industry stuff, where we're going to pick some topics that we find in the industry that need to be talked about kind of on their own, in our opinion, and we give those some discussion time. But we will also have our next episode related to specific programming coming up, revolving around AEW Collision. So for everyone who joined us here today, we hope you join us there. And until then, I guess there's nothing much left to do but roll the outro.
What a cliche. Bye, guys. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Top Tier Wrestling. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the latest AEW and WWE news and shows. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. Follow us on social media for updates and to join the conversation. Until next time, everyone, remember, wrestling is always better when it's top tier.